ball chips to half forward. Kelly the target. Prescott with him. Prescott, he did such a good job on Buckley last week. Kelly goes for Prescott for goal. Sensational for Kelly. A bounce. Runs, kicks to half forward. Clever kick. Kelly's done really well here to get the run. This will be a beauty.
Wide open spaces and the crisp country air was enough to lure Swans captain Paul Kelly back to the bush at the end of his football career. Born and bred in the New South Wales Riverina, Kelly returned to his hometown of Wagga Wagga after 12 years with the Sydney Swans. And while Kel has been quietly going about his business for a number of years, this year the former Swan has had some rather unfortunate luck.
We'd had a flood in December 2010 of 9.7 metres, which sort of meant most of our sort of property went under, but not our houses and that sort of stuff. They were in March we went to a meeting at North Wagga at the hall there, and they said it's going to be 9 metres, not much to worry about, blah, blah, blah. That was on the Saturday morning, and then by Sunday afternoon they said it's going to be 10.5 and you need to get out like they're going to evacuate it. So yeah, we didn't have much time to get much out of the houses or whatever, whereas the flood before we had 3 days and got everything out and obviously didn't get wet, and this time we had about 3 or 4 hours and didn't get everything out and all that sort of stuff. So pretty devastating, and then the floods, they sort of come and go, and then you sort of all the devastations revealed. But we're still not in our house now. It's just the process of insurances and that sort of stuff, but also the drying out. So we're hoping to get started in the next couple of weeks and get back in the next few months, yeah.
Not even 2 weeks later, Kelly made the headlines again after an unfortunate mishap on a motorcycle.
I'd had a bit of a practice the day before into the foam pits. The next day we were launching the Nitro Circus Tour of Australia in Docklands there. So they brought the bike in. I was just warming up, just getting the feel for the jumps, and unfortunately I went too fast over the jump, landed on my back with the bike land on top of me, and obviously broke my hip or my pelvis, whatever, or both, whatever you want to call it. And I thought I'd break my back at the time. I'm thinking, oh no, I'm gone here, I'm thinking there's something broken, but I don't know what it is. So, and this is in practice. Yeah. So the ambulance was there and they're sort of checking me out and whatever. And in the meantime, the media and all that have turned up for the launch, and I'm in the ambulance sucking on the blue whistle, the green whistle things, and they said, oh, can you sort of do anything? And I sort of thought, I knew I couldn't do my own jump, but I sort of, Cam can ride his bike around to the ambo, I can probably get on it and do it. So that's what we did, and did the jump, and then I couldn't get off the damn bike. And then I thought, oh no, there's something bad here. So I ended up in hospital for a few days after that, and in bed for a month, crutches for 3 months, and I've just come off them. I'm a month off the crutches, and still pretty damn sore actually, yeah.
Much like the last 3 months, Kelly's football career began with adversity, when the man now known as Captain Courageous was drafted to the Swans during what was one of the toughest times in the club's history.
I walked into the Swans for the first time. It was exciting for me to come from Wagga and to be at the SCG, because we hadn't been to Sydney that many times before that, and sort of walked into the club with not really knowing what to expect. And we didn't have, the first year or so I was there, we weren't too bad. But then we sort of finished on the bottom of the ladder for 3 years in a row after that. So that was tough. That was really tough. We had all sorts of off-field issues as well. We didn't have, social clubs. Our administration probably wasn't that great. We had very little corporate support. Used to get 7 or 8, sometimes 9 or 10,000 people to a game. So and we couldn't win one. So it was pretty ordinary. But I think, looking back, I think the fellas that went through those tougher times, we certainly got a lot out of the next few years that were a lot better.
But things dramatically improved for both Kelly and the Swans with the arrival of AFL legend Ron Barassi in 1993.
Barassi was fantastic. I suppose I'd been there for 3 years, I think, and then Barrass turns up, and the AFL legend that he is, and you hear all those stories about him being a hard taskmaster and all that, which are true, but he's also really fair, and he was honest, and he knew exactly how he felt or what he wanted. There was no games, and I really enjoyed playing footy under Barrass. If you weren't doing enough or what was expected, you were told, and I really liked that in him, yeah.
Kelly thrived under Barassi, and after just 3 seasons was named as captain in 1993.
Chips it and just misses Lockett again. Back onto it, O'Loughlin. Back to Kelly. Super play from the skipper. What a goal of the Swannies.
Yeah, that was I'd only been there for a couple of years. I only played sort of 50 senior games, and I was sort of finding my feet in the team, as well as the city. You know, you don't adapt that quickly. So all those things, you know, I probably felt that I wasn't probably ready for it, and I felt really uncomfortable, to be honest, because there was a number of fellas there that had been great players and great clubmen that were still there when I was there, and yet I was the captain. So I think, I know it was really good for me. Made me grow up really quickly and take some responsibility, and I think that helped me footy. I think the most important thing as a captain is to play well and set an example. So maybe they could see that in me. I was a New South Wales boy. So probably hoping I was going to get better and stay there for a long time.
And Kelly did get a whole lot better, winning the AFL's highest award, the Brownlow Medal, in 1995.
Yeah, the Brownlow was fantastic. You know, I'd only been up there for 5 years, so it was fantastic. I think unexpected, obviously. I don't think anyone goes to the Brownlow expecting to win it. We go there for a bit of a night out, so yeah, unexpected. I think my year of '95, I played some really good games, but I think that the next couple of years were probably my better footy years. But you know, to win the Brownlow, I think at the time for me it was obviously a shock. It was a good time at our footy club. The reserves played off in the grand final. I'd won the Brownlow, and we'd won, I don't know, 7 or 8 games for the year, which is a long way from where we'd been the last couple.
1996 was a good year for the Swans, with the club winning the minor premiership and reaching the grand final for the first time in decades.
96, I think that was the time that we sort of arrived in Sydney. You know, up until then, well, for the time that I'd been there, we seemed to be temporary. You know, we were good for a while, bad for a while. Didn't have all those things I talked about, club rooms. You know, our change rooms were ordinary, all those sorts of things. But all that off-field come together. We actually got beaten in the first 2 games of '96, so the attendance at the games was still fairly low. And then from there, I think we won the next 8 or 9 in a row, and it really turned, obviously, our season around. But the people of Sydney really thought, oh, this game's, thought, oh, let's go and see what these blokes are doing. And obviously, for most of us, and even for the, Plugger had come along and Roosie, blokes that had played footy for 14 or 15 seasons, both of them had never played in a grand final. And obviously, us blokes that had won not many games of footy prior to this, to go from where we were to the top of the ladder was really exciting. I remember beating West Coast last round of that season to finish top of the ladder. Was a highlight that I'll never forget. Obviously, in the next 2 finals, we won. Creza kicked a goal that maybe we beat Hawthorn, and then Plugger at the point after the siren. So, unfortunately, I hadn't even really thought about losing the grand final. And it was it's a best and worst day of my footy life, really. And we I don't know, a couple of things didn't go our way. We'd beaten the Kangaroos by 70 or 80 points a few weeks before, and so it wasn't as though we weren't good enough. It was just on the day they were better.
The success of the Swans in 2012 draws many parallels with '96 for Kelly, who says this year's Swans will take some beating.
Yeah, look, the current side's, it's credit to themselves. I think the way they can front up and play the type of footy they do every week. The sides that have played the Swannies the week before often pull up a bit jaded and a bit sore, yet our blokes are doing it every week, so it's a credit to themselves. I say to the people down here, I say, you've got to beat the Swans. They won't lay down. So, we're in a good position. We're on top of the ladder. Get that home final or 2. Who knows? It's a different ball game, as we know, in the finals. But they seem to, you know, they can beat anyone on their day, and just going to come down to obviously the day, but who's the most fit and healthy, I suppose.
And it was that passion for the Swans that saw Kelly end his short tenure with GWS ahead of their inaugural season.
I mean, and I'm a Swans person, I always was and always will be, but I just reckon that what the Giants give to our blokes the opportunity down here, I sort of felt as though I had to be part of it. So I did my 2 years with them, but at the end of the day, I just felt with the Giants coming into the competition, obviously it's in Sydney, 2 teams. Yeah. I'm a Sydney person, and my heart wasn't in it when you go and talk to the younger blokes. I just knew myself that I couldn't talk about the Giants as I could about the Swans, and it wasn't doing me any good, and I just felt it wasn't fair on them. So I finished up last year, the end of last year, and I sort of just went out to my mate's place and drove the header for the harvest, and sort of just looking around to see what I was going to be doing, and then the flood and then the crash. So I sort of no more advanced than where I was in January. But I don't know what I'll end up doing. Probably back on the tools or something, do a bit of plumbing. I enjoy my farm. I've got my farm going out the road. That's good. And I don't mind the plumbing either, so we'll just see what happens.